Hi, everybody. Welcome to Enchantment Divinations, where I remind you about your divinity so that you can also recapture your infinity. Thank you so much for being here, and I just want to pull a couple cards just to see what we can keep in mind for the coming months, a couple months till we begin the new year 2021. So these are the Super Attractor cards by Gabrielle Bernstein, and I will pull one as I cleanse, consecrate, heal, and bless the decks I'm using now. Thank you, Spirit. When I connect to the spiritual realm, I open the door to receive divine guidance, clear direction, and great wisdom. Beautiful. So that's not surprising at all. Um, When spirit wants to work through us, it often will send little signs and synchronicities, seeming coincidences. But even Einstein said coincidence is just God choosing to remain anonymous. So, really, when we're receiving these insights from the spiritual realm, they often will come in the form of numbers and songs and poetry that we encounter on Facebook, whatever the case may be. And spirit will often, more likely than not force itself onto us, but give hints and suggestions so that we can with our free will, choose to follow its guidance. And I believe that we co-create with spirit all the time, and we are so able and ready and willing to encounter that inspiration and that insight when we open up our hearts and minds to the power of spirit working in our lives. When things seem down, things seem hard to handle, when things seem bleak or murky, it's oftentimes because there's old wounding and old shadow work that needs to be brought into the light and healed. So when we have these unconscious patterns, those patterns may prevail over our thoughts throughout the day and permeate into our dream space. So much so that we feel cloudy without good solid direction, and we feel tired and worn out. But we must remember that each day is a brand new start, and the present is present. We need to calibrate into that oneness and awareness of spirit, because ultimately our thoughts are things, and what we create in our mind will bear fruit in some form in our reality. So when we claim the goodness that is us now, we are reminded of how beautiful the world can actually be, and how our minds and our hearts, when our mind and heart connect, it's what's called a neurological and emotional coherence, or a cognitive and intuitive collaboration. And that is so important to establish in our daily activities. Have you ever wondered about those to-do lists that we create so often? Why it feels like we don't get enough done? Maybe it's because we're giving ourselves too much to do in one day. We need to take smaller bites, take smaller baby steps. And if we get enough done and one day we feel accomplished, it's probably because we knew in reality where our limits are and where we can set our boundaries on our time. So, really, these to-do lists and these activities and these errands that we partake in throughout the day are just reminders, they should be, hopefully, reminders of the goodness of all. For example, something on my to-do list might be to post a card of the day on Instagram and Facebook. And when I post a card of the day, I let that feeling of connectedness, that feeling of collaboration and cooperation with social media, I let that feeling permeate through me pervasively so that really when I engage in that practice, it's something I do every day. I've done a card of the day on Instagram and Facebook at Ella Enchantment Divinations. I've done that every day since like mid-August. And I have a calendar alarm to remind me to do it. And I'm just so thankful that I do it every day because it's a constant and it's a reminder to me that somewhere, someone out there is going to be receiving that message on their screen, on their phone or their computer, what have you, and they can feel a deep connection and resonance in their own hearts to that message, and that somewhere I am reaching someone. Spirit is working through me as a vessel that I am to reach someone who needs to read and or hear that message right then whenever it reaches them. And usually I'm sure it's that day, but it may be later on. And I can be a vehicle for that light. So I would like to draw a goddess guidance card and then wrap up. I know it's a little late today. I actually just finished up a reading with a client who's a really good friend of mine. And I want to see what card comes through. Mary Magdalene. I'm actually in an online Mary Magdalene course. This is the last week. And it's with the Center for Action, I almost said activation, Center for Action and Contemplation. And the leader is the leader of the whole group, the one who's given us the inspirations over podcasts throughout the last 8 weeks, has been Cynthia Bourgeault, author of The Meaning of Mary Magdalene. And it's been such a beautiful experience. And the subtitle of The Meaning of Mary Magdalene is Discovering the Woman at the Heart of Christianity. And this is her card, Unconditional Love. Love yourself, others, in every situation, no matter what the outward appearances may be. And I'm going to read that from the book because I feel like that's really relevant. I'm not what most people think, says Mary, yet to defend myself would be to sink to a lower level than I feel comfortable with. I am one with the divine, just as you are, and it is here that I choose to reside. The lower levels of human bickering, judgment, and chaos are just that, lower levels. I choose to do my work from the level of higher consciousness, where love reigns supreme. It's here where the most good can be done, and I urge you to do the same. Where you dwell in consciousness is where you truly dwell. So focus your thoughts on the good things that you can find in people and rise above all appearances otherwise. Various meanings of this card. Don't worry what others think or say. Heal the situation with love. Send love to those who have hurt or misjudged you. Forgive yourself for what you think you've not done or you have done. Release old unforgiveness toward others to help yourself heal and move on. And lastly, about Mary Magdalene. Although the Gospels never specifically call Mary Magdalene a prostitute or a sinner, she's been called one by misogynists. Mary Magdalene nonetheless overlooks these false judgments, and she is unconditionally forgiving and has a beautifully sweet energy. Her significant role with Jesus, as described in the Gospels, includes her washing his feet, witnessing his death, and being one of the first people to whom he appeared after his resurrection. The first, actually. Controversies about other roles she may have played include Christ's bride, a temple priestess, or a disciple, and it could be all of the above. Call upon her for help with forgiveness and opening your heart to more love. When we encounter these daily reminders of love, when we see a heartwarming commercial on the telly, when we see bumper stickers as we're driving that remind us about like, oh, this is a dog mom, the dog lover. This woman has all these beautiful kids. Those like bumper stickers that you get on the window where it's like a dad and a mom and then the little kids. And it's like, or you see baby on board on the car or something like that. And it just reminds us all that there's this holistic goodness and graciousness within every one of us. And when we call upon that and when we remember that, we're more likely to have a, an easier, less fraught with frustration kind of a life. And when that life goes more smoothly, we feel more connected, we feel more at peace. And when it's turmoil at times in our lives, we know that it's just temporary and that there's a lesson, and that sometimes lessons are expensive, but they don't have to make us broke or broken. Thank you all for joining me, and I'm so grateful. And we do have somebody watching now. Whoever's watching, if you want to post a comment, I can read a card for you real quick if you'd like. I don't know who's watching. I can't tell who's watching. I'll give this person a few minutes if they want to post something in the comments. I should be able to see it over to the left-hand side. And I'd like to read a quote if you guys don't mind as we're waiting. From Gaia Codex by Sarah Drew. It's one of my favorite books of all time. And I would like to read a quote from the Gaia Codex in and of itself. Oh, hi Blake! Yay! I would love it. Oh, sure, honey, of course. Good to see you, hun. I'm gonna love your comment. Okay, I hope you don't mind. I'm gonna pull a light worker card. The Gaia Codex I'll read right at the end. I wasn't sure if I was gonna stay on, but I'm gonna stay on for another 10 minutes. And this Lightworker Oracle is by Alana Fairchild. She's one of my favorite authors and creators of decks. And so, Blake, this is your message as I cleanse, consecrate, heal, and bless this deck, infuse it with love and light intelligence. Ask Blake's guides and angels to be readily present, as they always are, to illuminate messages for him right here and right now. And so it is. Amen. This one. Ooh, beautiful. Fifth ray of intellectual knowledge. Beautiful card. I'm going to read from the book. It's number 42. And it makes a lot of sense, like, for the energy that we just talked about earlier. Sometimes when we get overcome in our mind's eye with a lot of, like, tasks and errands we have to run, we forget that we can be active researchers and nourish our mind with valuable knowledge and insights and soul sustaining wisdom teachings, and that we don't have to just be taking in just random thoughts and random insights from other people who may have all the best in their heart to do good for you to expand your own awareness, but sometimes like a lot of political posts can be very polarizing. So I think one of the aspects of this card, the fifth ray of intellectual knowledge, is to actually partake actively in researching political, religious, whatever sides and viewpoints, and nourish the mind with positive affirmation and denials of things that don't need to have any power over you, like doubt or fear or anxiety. And so it says here, the fifth ray of intellectual knowledge has come to you as a spiritual gift. You are being given the ability to find information you need, understand systems that impact your life, and find clarity in any issue that has seemed unclear or overwhelming. You shall sort the truth from the lies and learn what you need to know. The Archangel Raphael now assists you in integrating the blessings of the fifth ray. And I'm going to show the card again. You are distilling a new truth. It might be the truth of discernment, where you realize the appearance of a person, group, or cause is misleadingly different to the inner reality. Discernment is incredibly important on the spiritual path, all the more so as you open up to work with energies, with teachers and teachings, and to sort out all issues in your life according to your spiritual principles. Discernment is not judgment as we know it, but it does allow you to make informed decisions based on frequency. Everything carries frequency or vibration. Emotion is energy and motion. And this is just an aside from the book. Everything carries an energy with it that can be polarizing and disintegrating and divisive, or it can be closer to, you know, inspiring and intuitive and enlivening and empowering. And it reminds me of that water experiment that Dr. Masaru Emoto did with water, where he wrote different statements on like a post-it or whatever, a label, and put each statement on a glass of water. And the statements that were filled with positive growth and encouragement and support and recognition, that water turned molecularly in the microscope, it turned into crystalline structures, symmetrical patterns of beautiful water-based harmony that were just all these beautiful expansive and symmetrical crystalline structures, versus the negative statements like, I hate you, you're not good enough, whatever. There's not enough here, you don't belong here. Those statements, that water started getting spoiled, basically, and it started to carry and pull in the negative charge of those saddening statements. And it's so important to know that with this experiment, Dr. Emoto realized and has encouraged us as participants of this wisdom and, audience members to his study. We've realized that these vibrational statements affect us too, because we're mostly made of water. Huge, like 70-80% of us is made of water, just like the earth is. That's why full moons are so impactful to us. Because we're so made of water, and I know I was born on the day of a full moon, and you can look that up too. You can like ask like like you type in Google, what moon was I born under, and then put your actual birth date. That's one way to do some research into that. And another thing Dr. Emoto did, and this applies to this card because Dr. Emoto is an intellectual. He played classical music to the water, and the containers that had classical music played for them did the same kind of thing that they did when exposed to "I love you," "I'm happy for you," let's share a meal together," whatever positive statements were used. The classical music affected the water, and it was just a beautiful crystalline pattern again, like a mandala. But the more angry, like, screaming type music was played, and not saying that there's anything inherently wrong with listening to really bold and brash singers at times, but I think the lesson here with the water turning dark and discolored like it did with that kind of music, the lesson here is just to, like, monitor what we're putting in, what feedback we're giving our mind, heart, body, spirit, soul, because ultimately we need to be um, considerate of what we're feeding ourselves, because there's the vibration that everything carries that's going to actually affect us in an unconscious way a lot of times, subliminally even. So it continues here. When you choose to associate with people who are on a higher frequency, everyone benefits. If you choose to associate with people on a lower frequency than your own, you may feel your life moving more slowly, becoming harder than it needs to be. Discernment helps you navigate through illusions and find the real gems. It helps you step back from those who say they want to support you, but who actually just want to take and not give in return. The fifth ray helps you choose wisely and sever unhealthy connections. This ray also comes to you when there is more to something than meets the eye. You will be given the power to discover and understand the truth. Wait until the truth clicks inside you. Until then, keep looking deeper until you unravel the mystery. The fifth ray will help you do so successfully. And lastly, the challenge with the fifth ray is to remain open-minded as you find your clarity. Be willing to find more information if you need it. The right answers will come. Be willing to change your viewpoint in order to perceive the truth of the matter. If a system is working for you, that's great. If it needs to be changed, don't be afraid to go into the chaos of creativity and try different ways until you discover what will work better for you now. The fifth way has a special connection to the worlds of science. Therefore, you are encouraged to be an observer in your life, to experiment with what does and does not work for you. You are invited to pursue any form of science that is of interest to you, whether this be learning nutritional science or quantum physics, the chemical composition and healing effects of essential oils, or researching meditation and healing. If these are not of interest to you, it could simply be the application of the scientific mindset in your life. In that case, become methodical in areas that can benefit from systems, habits, and structures that replicate desired results. Apply this approach to your exercise regime, your meditation practice, and any other aspects of your lifestyle that maximizes your potential and supports your best possible life path. That's beautiful. So I think the lesson here is merely just, if we're feeding our bodies something, we understand its connection to our gut and all of that and what it can do in our bodies. If we're feeding ourselves a lot of things that are filled with preservatives and artificial sweeteners and all these other kinds of things, a lot of unhealthy fats, trans fats, whatever, we have to remember that it works the same way with our brain. I like to say, and I've heard this from others on YouTube, that the brain is like a computer while the mind is like the software. So if we're running a system into our head, into our mind, which is, an all-encompassing sphere of divinity anyway, if we're running something through there that is not in coherence with our highest good, we need to be willing to shed those old paradigms and research new ways to engage diplomatically and peaceably with our fellow creation. So just remember that if you feed your body something and it doesn't feel right, it's just like feeding your mind something that doesn't feel right. The intellect is something that needs to be cared for like a plant in a garden. And we remember too that the universe is a big, expansive garden of yes, and that just like plants are exposed to the inclement weather, and just like the soil doesn't decide to reject a seed, it actually will generate and germinate the seed forth into whatever it's meant to be, whatever it's in its design to be intelligent design. It's the same way with the thoughts that we hold. And if we think that we're not good enough, that we're not worthy, we will attract more of that kind of energy that will confirm that suspicion for us. But if we believe that we are worthy, we believe that we are ready for this kind of epiphany and this revelation to wake us back up to our wholeness, then that is the true treasure. So, with that in mind, I bid you peace, I bid you goodness, I bid you revelation and an earth shattering sense of completeness in all that you are and all who you are to this infinite universe in which you occupy space, holy space. Thank you, and namaste.